All right, let's get to the thing. Today, I'm going to be talking about this weird tuning that I have been using on the guitar, on a standard tuning guitar, but I am not using the standard tuning guitar. It's one octave down. I'm playing a Squire Bass 6. Squire Bass 6 is a baritone guitar. So, all right, good. And I just now can tell that you can hear me. So that's something. But let me give you the rundown of this setup here. This is not what I was hoping to do. I have a Scarlett 2i2 that I cannot seem to get to hook up, but I was hoping to do this today. I had planned on doing this at this point. So we're going to do it with lower audio quality rather than not do it at all. So I have a Squire Bass 6 hooked up to this Frontman 10G Fender. It's a really, really small amp. So it's nothing fancy today, folks. But what I want to talk about is some interesting things we can do with tuning on a guitar that will let us do what it's just intonation or approximated just intonation, because we only need to get so close. That's the one thing that I feel like we've learned from the 12-tone equal temperament experiment that we've been doing, is that people are cool enough if you can get within a certain sense, right? 100 cents per note. So 1,200 cents for the octave is the way that they break it down. And that's the way that we need to kind of think about things when we're working with this 12 fret system here. The guitar is kind of built for that. Let's see, am I going to move the camera? Am I going to move my guitar? Or am I going to do both and get both of them out of frame? All right. There we go. That's something. So 12 frets, then you've got the strings are perfect for this. So I'm going to get straight to it. Here's what I've been doing is I've been taking the normal tuning. This is E. It's E about one octave lower, and I'm a little bit sharp today, but I've already tuned. It's E about. Oop, there I am. One octave lower, and I'm a little. For monitoring purposes. All right, here's an app that I'm using. It's called Fine Tuner. It's got a tuning fork as the logo right here. You can see it next to some of the other ones that I've been using. A tuning fork inside of a guitar pick. And what's nice about this is it tells you how many hertz you're at, as well as like what the hertz should be for a standard guitar. I believe it's free. I don't usually pay for those kind of things. So I would recommend using that one if you're looking for something like this. So my E, looking at about 43 hertz, pretty spot on to what we're expecting it to be here. So standard tuning all the way for the first three strings. Right? What you expect. Nothing strange going on there, because we're close enough to what we want for some of these notes. And I'll get into what I mean by that in a second. And then this G string, the G, B, E, the high three strings, we're going to keep those tuned down slightly. So here's my D, here's my D. 76. And here's the G on that D string. 103, right? But what I'm tuning this G to, here's the actual G string itself. See that? It's a little bit lower. Let me get you the actual ones without me looking at it here, without me trying to show you, so that you can actually see. On the D string, the G that we have is 103, and then looking at 102. It's a little bit subtle here. So now we're going to want to lower that just a little bit. It's going to sound out of tune. These two notes are not going to be the same, and that's what we're doing here, is accessing some notes that aren't in the 12 tone equal temperament scale. We can't usually meet them because they're not at the frets. So we're changing the tuning of the strings so that where those frets land is slightly different, and then from here, once we have this slightly, maybe a little bit too flat, we're going to tune regular. So this normally would be that kind of weird. We're doing a major third instead of the perfect fourth. We're doing the 4th fret instead of the 5th fret. And we want those to be in tune. And then okay, so let's look at what we just did here. We got standard, and then shifted very slightly. Now this is how far is going to be a matter of your preference, slightly, because we're going after different notes. They're not going to align perfectly. Remember, these are approximations. We're just trying to get to a couple different notes here, and let me identify what those are for us now that we're in tune here. So we've got the perfect 5th down here. We've got power chord, right? Now this is an A and the D string, and the perfect 4th. Those are going to be the same. But once we get to the D string here, we're going to have another interval. So let me for an example play a minor third here. It's a little bit lower than it would normally be, but doesn't sound too bad to me. It might not sound great to you. You might want it to be a little bit lower even, or a little bit higher up. The important thing is, what we need to note is that this note, two different notes. So now we have, essentially, we've unlocked a new option on the guitar here. We've got the, compared to, it's different. But we're losing a couple things here too. So now we have this new septimal minor third. That's what's called the septimal minor third. And the reason is, what we're trying to go after is a harmonic ratio where it's 7 vibrations of one note to 6 vibrations of the other note in the same time interval. So 7 hertz over 6 hertz, right? We normally don't have that. Normally what we have is something closer to this minor third here, closer to 6 over 5. Now, there's other people have talked a lot about the whole numbers, the way that those ratios work and sound pleasant to human ears, and how strings are a great example of that. Probably the easiest way to experiment with that. And I definitely encourage anybody to mess around with different tunings, because it's just the easiest way to play around with these different just intonation things. Like, I use that in quotes because, again, this is approximation. So let's look at a couple other things here. The perfect 4th is going to be off now. it's going to be a little bit flat. We've kind of ruined that. Tempered it is the maybe nicer way to say it, but it doesn't sound right, and we should be blunt about that. We don't want to use this in a chord. It's going to sound weird. But this here is a little bit closer to the 7/4, 7 hertz to 4 hertz, the septimal tritone. Septimal just means 7. There's 7 vibrations in there at some point. So now this one is interesting because it's used in a lot of dominant chords. It's used in jazz all over the place, but it also has some specific functions, some harmonic functions in music. So playing this, making this a little bit more pleasant than the 12-tone temperament version can really spice up your chords a little bit. And that's what I'm going to get to 1 second here. Perfect fifth is also going to sound bad. But these don't sound, to me, they sound interesting, you know? So let's look at a chord here, and I'm going to walk through the chords of a song that I've been working on that I hope to play at some point. It's got some crunchy stuff, so I'm having difficulty recording it. You want to make sure that you get the notes right. But we've got this here, perfect fourth, and that septimal minor third. Turn up just a tiny bit. And I'm sorry again about the audio quality today, everybody. Could not get this adapter to work, but you know, it's an ongoing process. So this is hopefully just the first of a few things. Hopefully recurring. I'd love to do more live streams, but I also would love an active chat. So people, you know, if you want to engage, like, subscribe, that kind of thing, please be very interested to hear your thoughts, hear what you want to think, what you think of these, and then what you want to hear more about. So we've got this interesting septimal minor third here. And one other thing that we have is we have a lower major third. Now there are 2 different major thirds that are available. There's the 5/4, and then there's the super major third. And I have access to one of them now. But then the nice thing about the guitar is sometimes if it doesn't sound quite right, you can always just bend that one note, right? So if we overshot that one a little bit, which I think we ended up overshooting the 5/4 by lowering it. I might be wrong on that, though. I actually don't have that note in front of me. Bending it just a tiny bit, you know, you've got this, and then you're actually getting to that just intonation, what the note, the ratio that you're looking for, that 5 hertz to 4 hertz. So we've got this chord. Now, we haven't even talked about the higher ones yet. We haven't gone past the perfect fifth. We can go now to I'm going to skip a couple. We're going to go to one of my favorites, which is the septimal minor 7. 7 hertz to 4 hertz. 7 vibrations to 4 vibrations in the same interval. Used a lot in barbershop quartet music. It's kind of ethereal. It's a little bit difficult. It's beautiful, but since it's so difficult to access, and you can't play it, for example, on a piano or any instrument where you can't bend the pitch. Any 12-tone instrument where you couldn't bend the pitch wouldn't be able to. But vocals, strings, that kind of thing, you can hear it a little bit more. And it's got a very interesting sound. And so let's do a comparison here. We'll do... No, I'm sorry, I messed up there. I'm playing the same 3. That's the thing to keep in mind here. These top 3, these are going to be used for these weird harmonies. These are only harmonic strings. in this case. So what I'm looking for actually is something like so you kind of hear it. I know how to play guitar. Sometimes I know how to play guitar. You can hear that difference in the note again. And that's just something you can't normally play. But this in particular, sounds kind of nice to me. Now, I like to play this with the septimal minor third. So what I would play is this note here. And I think that sounds really nice. I could just strum on this for a while. But then you go. And I'm bending this middle one a little bit. So what are we actually doing here? Let's ignore all keys and anything. Got this low note. This is 1. That's our first note, right? We've got this 7, now 5. This is going 5 times 5 hertz per faster than this. 7, 6, 5, 4. And then this up here, 7 hertz for every 4 hertz down here. So I think both of these sound beautiful, and I'm going to get into the math of it a little bit here, if you don't mind. So we've got 7, 7, and here we've got both of these. This is 4 to the 5 and the 7 in the major chord there. So we can add these in. We've got the perfect fourth just now, and then look at this. We got some microtonal action, kind of. We got some just intonation going on here, and still we're just using a regular guitar. Be warned about using your buddy's guitar with this. If you don't, if you detune it and you don't tell them, then they might be a little bit frustrated. And we've got this septimal minor 7 there, and then approximations, right? But we've got this. We could play. How many songs are there? How many blues songs are there that are just 2 chords like this, right? You might add, and that's it. And that was still a septimal minor 7 too. So. Other thing is sorry to cut the groove like that. Other thing is you can add in a Hendrix chord. Hendrix chord is something most guitarists call that, that it's got both the minor and major third right here. So this is the root, major third. There's the minor 7th. We've got septimal minor 7th here. Now this is going to be the 12 tone approximation. But that's kind of okay in this case because we're also adding in the weird septimal minor third, right? And what's interesting about this, something that a concept that I'm still learning about, so I don't ask me about this yet. I hope that other people will share about this soon. But the concept of don't tell me that the idea just escaped me. Oh, shimmer chords. That's right. So shimmer chords can be played with this as well. So the Hendrix chord is almost a shimmer chord in this case because you got. It's kind of weird, right? But when you raise it to play the actual octave, you end up with a chord that's however much you lowered this lower. So see, it doesn't sound great to do the power chords when you're using these three harmonic strings. And that's kind of the way that I like to think about it while I'm using these. You have the three upper harmonic strings that you can use to get these interesting chords. You can get the just intonation approximations of the septimal minor sixth, the just major fifth, just major third, and septimal tritone, septimal minor seven. And these are all really interesting. But when you play these together, you get that shimmer effect. And it sounds kind of chorusy on a guitar. You wouldn't want to use it in every single chord. It would just sound out of tune maybe. But if you use it for effect, you know what I mean? So some things to keep in mind. I'm not telling anybody to do anything, but hopefully I've opened some new possibilities here, some new ideas on things that you can do today with your guitar to make some new interesting sounds. I think these chords sound pretty good. You can also get keep in mind you got a ninth chord here. You got that septimal minor seventh there too. Only real limitations are you don't want to make sure that you're selective in how you mix and match chords, like between the lower three strings and these harmonic strings up here. You can play something like it'll sound the upper three strings will sound into. But once you add in the lower strings, then it's going to start to sound out of tune. So if I'm playing a bar chord, if I'm playing something that has these 4 strings in the middle, let's say, it's going to sound a little bit weird. This is just supposed to be, a C-shaped. You can see if you're familiar with like the cage system, you've got a C shape here on the guitar. I just don't want to play it down here because it sounds muddy on the bass 6. Everything's an octave lower. It sounds a little bit off. Same thing if you're doing. You can't really play all the way through because keeping in mind these notes are not going to be in tune. They're going to be a little bit off. So if you're going to play something like, it's going to sound a little bit off. But if you play something like a major 7 and you want to go for that shimmer to try to lean into it, that might. See what I'm doing here is got this major 7 that's a little bit of an interesting major 7. It kind of approximates a different major 7th than there are a few major 7ths. It approximates a different one than what we normally get in a 12-tone system. So that sounds kind of beautiful. You can get play into the shimmer effect to get some chorus going here. Remember, this is just a regular guitar. You just tuned it wrong. So hopefully you get some good ideas out of this. If you want to hear something else, if you have any questions about things like the minor sixths here and the major sixths. They're a little bit interesting. But you're unlocking new tones again. You're unlocking some new ideas. You might not want to use these all the time. You might never use them. You might only use them in one song. But if you end up using it at all, you know, it's a new palette. It's something that can make your music sound a little bit more interesting and outside of the box. You know, keep in mind that you're going to want to have other people be in tune with you, and then that's something to think about when you're recording as well. So I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any ideas for what you want to see in the future. Any comments aside from, well, you know, I mean, I guess I deserve it if I'm uploading this to YouTube, live streaming to YouTube, but, you know, comments on how my audio quality is crap, how this little Frontman 10G by Fender is, you know, a terrible little amp. It's doing it. I think it's all right. And, you know, how I've had this microphone in front of me the whole time, but it's not plugged in because of that Scarlett 212i2 issue. So aside from that, enjoy and hope to see you next time.